Well, let's end this where we began, with Alan C. Guelzo, a fine rhetorician. And here's his most recent public presentation of his view of Gettysburg the first day. Here's Professor Guelzo telling us Lee's intent in bringing his army into Pennsylvania on its way to Gettysburg.
I think the real question is whether Lee had a strategy at all. In fact, Lee wasn't even on the battlefield until around 2 o'clock on the afternoon of July 1st. And when he does arrive, his first impulse is to break off the action. This is not what he had intended. What he originally had in view was to concentrate all three of his big infantry corps between Gettysburg and Cashtown. But on July 1st, A.P. Hill had inopportunely committed his corps to an entanglement with federal troops that he found at Gettysburg. Lee has no idea that an action is taking place until he hears the cannon fire from 8 miles away at Cashtown. And then he has to come forward at Gettysburg and sort out what is happening. And the first conclusion he comes to is, this is not what I've planned. My army is not concentrated. This is not a battle I want to fight here. But his army is in fact doing so well. The Confederate troops that are at Gettysburg are gaining so much ground that after a while he changes his mind. Maybe this is the way he wants to fight. And so he begins directing and coordinating the troops of Richard Ewell's corps and of Powell Hill's corps. They both then, at that point in the afternoon of July 1st, close in like two jaws on a trap and wreck the Federal 11th and 1st Corps and send them fleeing back through the town.
And it's interesting to compare what he most recently said about that, the way he said it, his choice of words in saying it, the images that he conjured, with the book he wrote most recently called Gettysburg, The Last Invasion. I think this was published in 2007. Well, how did he put it then in that book that he wrote? Let's look at it. Quote, "So much of this invasion had gone so well that even Robert E. Lee was becoming more relaxed and talkative about his plans. To Jefferson Davis, he hinted that if, quote, I could throw Hooker's army across the Potomac and draw federal troops from the South, it might prove the saving of the Western Confederacy," unquote. Now, where Professor Guelzo got this quotation escapes my intelligence altogether, and I am a deep student of the primary materials available to students. And he goes on. Once he had forced the Yankees to relax their grip on Vicksburg and Tennessee, he could then return to Virginia at his leisure. Quote, "Our true policy is, as far as we can, so to employ our own forces as to give occupation to his at points of our selection," period, unquote. Now that last quote, you see, Professor Guelzo artfully extracted from a letter that General Lee actually wrote to President Davis from Williamsport on the left bank of the Potomac on June 25, 1863. Of course, I don't see that there's a footnote there that tells us this. So, these historians tend to mix and match fabrications out of whole cloth with bits of objective truth. You got to be careful with these people, students. That much Lee knew would satisfy Davis, but if Harrisburg should turn out to be as ill defended as Winchester had been, then Ewell was to ford the Susquehanna. Longstreet would move up behind Ewell. And A.P. Hill would follow Jubal Early's division through York and cross the Susquehanna to cut the communications of Harrisburg with Philadelphia. Are you kidding me, Professor Guelzo? Where in God's good earth, sir, did you fathom this silliness? Ford, the Susquehanna, Longstreet moving up behind Rodes' division, Early crossing the mile-wide Susquehanna on a bridge that was burned. Absolute silliness. But always, Professor Guelzo tells us, at the back of Lee's mind had been the possibility of the so far elusive Napoleonic battle. The winner-take-all, annihilating victory which would shut the entire war down at once. What is this gentleman? Does he teach students this silliness, this crap? Do people pay money to hear this crap? Everything had gone so well thus far. They had given Hooker the slip, overrun Winchester, gotten across the Potomac without opposition, and were now within reaching distance of Harrisburg. Assuming that this would draw Hooker in pursuit, Hooker would then be so late in starting and in such a hurry to catch up, the Army of the Potomac would soon find itself strung out and panning on the roads in the Maryland. That might give Lee the chance to turn on the disjointed and jaded Federals somewhere on the Monocacy and deliver the war's knockout blow. I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen, 2016, and this is the crap we get from the popular historians who make a living pontificating in public about their views of what was in General Lee's mind when he was at Culpeper issuing orders for his corps to start their marching toward Gettysburg.